Benita, do you hear me?
Hi, Dr. Laurent. We can hear you properly. How are you?
Fine, 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 fine. I'm ready.
Yes, I think we have 9 more minutes till the start time, so we'll wait for others
Mhm,
to join. And so, how
mhm,
you been?
sure.
You are in France or in Germany at the moment?
No, no, I'm in France, near the German border, but
Yes,
in
Strasbourg.
France.
Yes.
No, I'm back from Spain. I was last week in Madrid.
Madrid. Okay.
Mhm.
What were you up to in Madrid?
It was for a talk in a conference
Okay.
for the feed millers in Spain, and I was invited to explain my 30 years of experience dealing with amino acid formulation.
Okay. That's
So
nice.
it was 1 hour talk within one whole day of different speakers,
Okay.
American, Spanish, and one French.
Fun French. That's you. I
How
think Dr.
things are doing in Sri Lanka.
In Sri Lanka, things are improving slowly, but we got a new budget that is not favorable for any of the Sri Lankan agricultural producers, especially the livestock producers. The new budget is not going to be favorable for the next financial year. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a bit, there's a bit of uncertainty, but otherwise, politically and economically, the country is getting stabilized slowly. Not 100%, but slowly we are being stable.
Okay, fine. We will have 20 attendees.
Yeah, around 20, I think, attendees. So already, I think
Mm.
Dr. Bodaheva, you remember, I think he joined you in Matale last time when you came to Sri Lanka. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he has joined. And Mr.
Mm.
Udita, he's a feed miller in the northwestern part of the country. His feed mill is called US Feeds. He makes cattle feed, and he has joined as well. So we'll wait for the others to join, and we'll start there.
I see that two people are right now in the waiting room, but are you the one managing this?
No, I already
This?
made you the host. I don't know.
Ah, sure. Yes, I have to admit. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dr. Pritesh is here.
Uh-huh. But you will do the introduction, Senita.
So I'll do a small person introduction on about you and what we are planning to do with the session. And then later on,
Mhm.
we'll start with, I'll hand it over to you and you can continue afterwards as well.
Okay. Hi, British. Hmm.
I don't know whether I could accept people because then while you are doing the meeting, I could accept people to that'll be more convenient. Otherwise, you'll be
Yeah.
interrupted
Hmm.
regularly. You understand what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Please do this. Hmm.
I'll reclaim host for now and then I'll admit.
We should put some music on in order to wait. Uh,
To break the tension, right?
yeah, because with such a mute screen, it's quite boring right now.
We'll wait 2 more minutes and then we'll start, Doctor.
Okay. Okay. Perhaps you could sing a song or
Yeah, you can maybe sing us a French song or something like that.
just discover the wonderful French landscape behind me.
Yes.
Mm.
With yourself, your face, yeah.
Anyway, the connection seems to be pretty good. Um, I hope everybody is hearing and seeing satisfac with satisfaction without any trouble. Mm.
It's good for me. I think it's raining today a bit in Sri Lanka.
Mhm.
There's some thunderstorms, so hopefully our connections won't get interrupted. But let's hope it won't happen.
France, it's quite good weather for winter, not
Okay.
so cold, but 6 right now. It is 6 degrees C. Sun is shining. Wonderful.
Got pretty cold outside, I would say.
Yeah. Well, for winter, it's quite a normal
Yeah.
temperature. Mm.
Okay, I think we can start for now. So many people have joined. Uh, maybe shall we wait for another 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll start it, just in case,
Mm.
because some other people who have confirmed has not joined yet. So we'll wait for another 2 minutes.
So it will be quite difficult to manage within 1 hour to discover all the aspects of the ruminant formulation, but we'll try to do it in a simple
I know
way.
it's a difficult job.
Scientific, but also practical.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay, Dr. Laurent, I think it's better to start now without delaying it any further.
Mm.
So good afternoon to all of you have who has joined. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and joining this dairy nutrition, especially ruminant nutrition session, organized by Adisio and Farm Chemie and conducted by Dr. Laurent Thiaucourt. He is one of the leading ruminant nutrition experts in the world, and he has also visited Sri Lanka 2 times now, and he has been
Three
to
times.
3 times. Yes, he has been here 3 times now, and he has been to Ambevela, Lonak, and different types of farms where he has done some consultations and proved success through results. So, and I would hand over to Dr. Laurent now, so you can. I'll make you the host, and you can start the session for everyone else. Just to introduce everyone who has joined so far, we have Mr. Udita from US Feeds, Dr. Bodhiheva, who you know, he's from the breeding unit in Sri Lanka, the government breeding unit. Dr. Dasun is from Prima. They are one of the largest feed manufacturers in Sri Lanka, and they do a lot of cattle feed manufacturing. Mr. Chandana, who is from Mahavali Feeds, he's another cattle feed manufacturer. Mr. Ajit from New Anthony's Feeds, he's also another from a feed mill. He's a feed mill nutritionist, and hopefully we can start the session. And also Dr. Jay Haran has also joined. He's from Cosmo Feeds, another cattle feed manufacturer, and the rest are from our farm chemie team. So, Dr. Laurent, I will hand it over to you, and you can carry on. I'll make you the host as well. Just give me a second. Okay.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Senita, for inviting me for this session. As I said before, it will be quite a task to discover every aspect of the ruminant formulation within 1 hour, but I try to do my best. And anyway, after the slide presentation, or during, if you want, interrupt me and ask for a question without a problem. So I'll begin and share my screen with this and move to the presentation. So I hope you all see my screen, and let's begin. So I have been presented as a ruminant specialist, but during my last 20 years of commercial activity, I was also CEO of a group of feed mill in the eastern part of France, managing 200,000 tons per year, mainly for dairy. After my retirement, because right now I'm almost 70 years old, I'm a dairy consultant for different companies. But let's move to milk production. So here is part of my own collection of milk pack around the world. So we are producing milk everywhere, and there are different ways of producing milk. I hope you don't see this on the right. I don't know how to clean this screen. Senita, could you tell me if you see
Yes, doctor.
it's okay?
I can see the photo of with the different milk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to admit, I see. Okay. So milk production is present all over the world. Different systems are operating somewhere, but the cows are the same everywhere. So if we want to produce 1 liter of milk, we have to excrete water and dry matter. And what is costly is this dry matter. And the composition of this dry matter is mainly made of sugar. The milk sugar is lactose, almost an average of 50 grams of lactose per liter of milk. Then we have fat and protein, and of course some minerals and vitamins. So it is a lot of water and some dry extract, I would say. And in order to produce this amount, we will need to describe the requirements then the supply, and hopefully made some formulation for the dairy cows. How do we evaluate these requirements? So we use what we call the factorial approach for the energy, the protein, and some major minerals. Factorial means that we will cut the requirements among different parts, mainly the maintenance, the body reserve, the gestation, and of course, at the end, the production. So it will be a factorial sum at the end. For some other nutrients, as trace elements and vitamins, this factorial approach is not possible, because if you add some more trace element or vitamins, you won't get any more milk. So the requirement evaluation is based on the level of these nutrients in the blood or at some other level. Anyway, it is a global one, and at the end, the result or the requirements will be based on concentration within the dry matter intake. This is simple, factorial and global. And more complicated is the functional nutrients, because for some of the nutrients, you will get an increase in milk production, but not only. And we will see that for methionine, for example, if you add some more methionine, you will get some more milk, but also you will improve repro and health disorders. So there is also another way to evaluate the requirement based not only on the milk production, but also on the life of the cow, the life length, the life health, etc. So it's more complicated, and it does add some new level of requirements. And of course, for water, it will depend not only on the production, but also on the environment conditions. Let's move to ruminant. I have been told that you are mainly monogastric specialists, and in order to make some comparisons, it is easy to think that a ruminant is a monogastric behind a rumen. So when you want to feed properly a ruminant, you have to think first at the rumen and then at the ruminant intestine as a monogastric one. So first of all, we have to promote the rumen activity. And this activity will give the ruminant a huge microbial protein synthesis that will be used at the other level in the intestine. So, in order to promote the rumen activity or the microbiome productivity, we need very simple things. Dealing with nitrogen, the bugs will need only ammonia. So not an expensive ingredient. And of course, energy to make this microbial protein synthesis. But dealing with the nitrogen requirement, they are very simple and only based on ammonia level within the rumen. And then with the carbohydrate intake, they will synthesize a lot of microbial wall, mainly made of protein. And then it will be transferred to the intestine, where all the needs are to be fulfilled. So the intestine of the ruminant will be fed with the microbial protein and also with the rumen undegradable protein coming from the feed you gave to your animals. And at this level, we have to provide enough amino acid to the animal that are not provided by the microbial protein. So when it comes to the production system, if we look at the different way to evaluate this, it is very complicated. Here is a simple graph for the French system, but if you look at the CNCPS, the American one, it is also very complicated. So when you feed a ruminant, you have to have in mind that you feed the rumen and then the intestine, but then you have to rely on a software in order to make sure that your composition is good enough for the production you will to realize. The requirements will be evaluated for energy, for protein, minerals, vitamins, and trace element. Everything is important if you want to have a good production. But if you look at this hierarchy, energy is the first one, because that's the most complicated to feed, because it is not very concentrated. So energy is the first limiting point. Then protein will be easier to feed because you will need less volume, minerals, less volume, and of course, vitamins and trace elements are very easy to feed because it's only grams or milligrams of some ingredients. So remember, the first limiting nutrients will be energy for ruminant. And a little bit of complicacy here. When you feed a cow, the rumen will have its own activity, and there is a flow coming out of the rumen to the intestine. And this flow is not a constant. So the higher the intake is, the more rapid is the flow coming out of the rumen. And it makes it difficult to simply understand what will be the value of your feed. It will depend on the level of the intake. So that's one of the reasons you need software in order to evaluate the real value of your diet. Coming back to the energy with some simple ideas. Energy can be measured at the growth energy. So it is the energy of your feed minus the energy coming out in the excreta. But it's not enough. You have to move down to the digestible energy. So that's the growth energy minus the excreta energy. But the cow will not retain everything. So you have also to subtract the energy going out with the methane excretion and also the energy going out of the animal through the urine. And then you deal with the metabolizable energy. But in order to produce something, meat or milk, there is also a yield, an efficacy of this metabolizable energy. And this net energy depends on your production. So the net energy value of a feed will be different if you consider a meat production or a milk production. And this difference will express as a heat loss. So in any system, you should go to the net energy value of your diet. Sometimes some system stops at the metabolizable energy, but the more recent goes down to the net energy for milk. As I said, it is a factorial approach. So in each system, you will have to evaluate the maintenance value, the gestation values, the body reserves, accretion or utilization, and only after that, what is left for the milk production. But if I go here, it is to stress on these first three levels. In order to evaluate the maintenance, you will have to give the weight of your animals. If your weight is false, then your net energy evaluation for milk production will be false also. If you've got some gestation, again, you will have to put into your system the gestation duration, etc. And if you are at the very beginning of the lactation, you may use some reserve, but if you are at the end of the lactation, you will need to reconstruct this body reserve. So in order to get a good value for your milk production, you have to put the real inputs for these all three requirements. That's an example of the body reserve use and accretion during the lactation. And I'm sure you all know that the cow will lose weight at the very beginning. And after 10 weeks, approximately, she will have to rebuild all these reserves along the lactation. This has some impact on the requirements for the lactation, of course. Everything is calculated. So this is the French system, but within the other, there are some other equations. Everything is very complex, but using a software, you don't have to think about this. Once you've got the energy, you've got the net energy for milk, and the units may be different. In some system, you deal with kilocalories. In some other, you use megajoule. And in the French system, you use the UFL, the unit forage for milk. So the same values, but different units in order to express the needs. We want to produce milk, and we will have to describe our milk in order to be able to evaluate the real needs for this milk. So there are the system with the energy corrected milk, and the standard milk could be, it is different among the system, but each time you need to say the fat content and the true protein content. So for this example, you will need 740 kilocal per kg of milk or 0.42 UFL per kg of milk. And you see that in order to be able to give this value, you need to give the fat content, TB in French, or the true protein content of your milk. So sometimes in your countries, you have the fat content, but sometimes you don't have the info about the true protein content. But it's not so complicated to evaluate. So if you've got the SNF, solid non-fat is made of the crude protein, the minerals, and the lactose. And by chance, lactose and minerals contents are almost always the same. So 7.5 grams for the minerals and 4.8%, for the lactose. So in order to get the true protein value, knowing that roughly 5% of the crude protein is non-protein, you multiplied 85% of SNF minus 7.5 minus 8.8, and then you will get the true protein content of your milk, and then it will be easy to get the real energy need for 1 kg of milk. That's very important. If you don't give the real value of your energetic value of milk, then the result of your calculation will not be accurate. For protein, it's also quite complicated. You've got also maintenance requirements, gestation requirements, and milk production. The body reserve in protein are not so important. There are only a few reserves at the very beginning of lactation when the uterus is used by the cow during the first 1 or 2 weeks of the lactation. So in the classical system, you don't deal with these protein reserves. But quite complicated is the more protein you feed, or the more MP, metabolizable protein you feed, the more milk you could have, but with a marginal efficiency declining. So if you put the good amount or more than the good amount, you will get more milk protein yield, but with a lower marginal efficiency. So it is always the question for the protein part of the diet: how much crude protein, how much MP, how much amino acid will I feed in order to get the more economical production. I can give more and get more protein milk, but with a lower efficiency. I can get lower quantity with a higher efficiency, but a lower result, milk protein yield. So that's the problem with the ruminant. The efficiency of use of the proteins is a variable. And this variable is shown here. You see, the more metabolizable protein you give, the more results you have, but at one point, the marginal efficiency will be 0, so without any interest. Well, that's about the same. And the milk production is not alone linked to the energy from one side or from the protein from the other one. It is a simultaneous influence of MP or energy intake. So if you look at this curve, which is the real requirement, you see that if you feed more energy, you will get more milk. And then if you give more MP, you will move along this line with more milk again. So it is a simultaneous influence of MP intake and energy intake. And that's the reason why in the CNCPS system, the requirement will be based on the concentration of amino acid on the metabolizable energy value of your diet. So again, that's not only energy and protein, it is both the simultaneous actions of MP and energy at the same moment. That's another graph in order to make it clearer. Here again, the pure requirement. Less energy, you will have less production. More energy, more production. But more energy and more MP, you move above this curve with more milk production. Okay, that's the first point. You have to add energy and MP at the same time. But MP are not enough in order to determine the requirement. Since more than 30 years, we know that dairy cows have amino acid requirements. They respond to amino acid supplementation, and lysine or methionine are the two first limiting amino acid in ruminant production, as it is in many other production. Perhaps not lysine and methionine first limiting for any monogastrics, but anywhere for ruminants, that's the case. And you see that at the same level of MP, if you add lysine, you will have a real increase in milk protein production. Exactly the same for methionine. Within the same MP quantities, if you concentrate the methionine level, then you will see an increase in milk protein production per cow per day. And 30 years ago, the French scientists were the first to propose some recommendation for this lysine and methionine concentration within the MP in the French system PDIE. And they put an alert level and a requirement level. Below the alert, you will have a real decrease in milk production. And above the requirement, you still have a little increase, but economically speaking, it's not worth doing this. So you have to move in between these two levels, 2% or 2.5% of methionine within the MP. And in order to make it simple, with Adiseo and some other consultant, we put a value at 2.2% of methionine within the MP. And for lysine, it was put at 6.8, right in the middle between alert and pure scientific requirement level. So every system, every new system is based on this kind of curve lysine, methionine, but right now we are also dealing with some other amino acid. As far as science move on, the new requirements are discovered, in that case for histidine and leucine. For monogastric, you will have tryptophan, etc. For ruminants, after lysine and methionine, you will have to deal with histidine and perhaps leucine or isoleucine also. So let's move to the balancing principle. I'm sure you all know that it is the simple way of thinking. Balancing a diet is the first limiting nutrient. So the first limiting nutrient, whatever it is, will limit the production, but not only, it will also make it excess unusable. So in order to eliminate this, you will have to detoxify the excesses. And this detoxification process is energy demanding. So not only the first limiting nutrient will limit the production, but it will also cause a use of the energy in order to detoxify the excesses. If you want to get an higher production, you will have to correct the first limiting nutrient. And of course, you get a higher production, but also you have less detoxification and more energy for milk production. So not only a better use of the nutrients, but also a lower use of energy for detoxification. Science is evolving. Here is the French system moving from 1978 to now, I would say. Systems are numerous. There are many, but they are now all based on amino acids. And even the last one from Germany, last month, it was published. Everything is based on amino acids. So remember this, if you calculate a diet for high producing or normal producing dairy cow, deal with amino acid. That's the way it is to be done. And remember, as every animals, the mammary glands use grams of amino acid. So I mentioned the percentage of methionine and lysine within the MP, but right now, exactly as for monogastrics, the idea is to deal with grams of amino acid instead of proportion within grams of MP. So what are the systems you may use? You have to use commercial software based on official system. The most famous system in the world is a CNCPS model coming from the Cornell University. And you can find it within the AMTS software or within the NDS software. So they are all based on the Cornell model. You may also use some other, and of course, as I am French, I will propose the French system. It is also very good, and the results are quite the same as for if you use CNCPS. So the modern system are very easy to use, very beautiful with some histogram, graphs, etc. You may choose your different outputs on the first screen, etc., etc. But at the end, if it is good, you will have sensibly the same result, whatever the model you are using. Right now, not only in this software, but you look at the diet balance, you have also health info. You may have a closer look at energy, nitrogen, fiber, minerals, fat, and all systems, as I said before, are also proposing requirements for amino acid. In that case, you see the objectives and the value of the diet I put in. So, okay, we've got a system, we've got a software, we've got data, we've got prices if you want to optimize your diet. Prices not only for your ingredients, but also for the milk payment. Because at the end, what we want is a result for the feed mill, but also for the farmer. So, and the farmer is based not only on volume, but also on quality of the milk. So in a good system, you have to put in your software the price of the liquid milk, but also of the grams of protein and the grams of fat or solid non-fat and fat, in order to be sure that any modification you make in the diet will be taken into account in the milk composition and at the end, at the milk price level. Okay, so you've got everything and you are in the farm trying to make a diet. So you may use already your software, or you may also make sure that the data you put in your software are the real one. And the first thing to make sure is what is the dry matter intake. And in order to put the good value in your software, you have to make sure that the moisture of each ingredient is well known, because a cow will give milk with dry matter and not with water. So the moisture tester, the humidity tester, is the first device in the farm or in the consultant car. You have to make sure what a cow eat as a dry matter. Then you will have to choose the different ingredients available at the farm level. And the software will help you in order to compare the economical value of different ingredients. So make sure that you know the real dry matter of each ingredient. Make sure you know the value, the economical value of each ingredient. And sometimes it's very difficult. For example, if you have pasture, how would you evaluate the cost of the dry matter of a pasture? It's quite complicated, but if you want to optimize, you should give a value on this dry matter of the pasture. If you feed byproducts, sometimes they are wet, sometimes they are more dry. So be sure to put the value on the dry matter and not on the as-fed value. And then you will be able to effectively use your nutrition model and use the optimizer if you want. So if we look at the CNCPS, it is based on requirements. As I said, they use their own equation, so you don't have to care about this. You have to deal with maintenance and pregnancy, growth and reserve, giving the good info in your system. So it is in red. Animal characteristics are the most important data you have to put in your system. And then you may also adjust for activity and environment. Just an example for activity, if they are on pasture, they will walk a lot, and then you will have to add some energy value in order to compensate this energy loss of walking. In the supply, the most important is to be sure that you choose the right description of each ingredient. And it is not so easy. You have to rely on dry matter, first of all, but also on lab results or on tabular values. So you need to have your own data based for your local regional ingredients. So help of the tabular values of the CNCPS or the French database, but then you have to customize these feed tables in order to be in line with your real ingredients. Then the system will evaluate everything. The protein and carbohydrate fraction will be divided in fast, mid-fast, or moderate, or slow degradation. And of course, some of them will be undegradable for protein or for carbohydrates. So that's everything within the system. You don't have to worry about this. When you get a result, it could be very complicated. There are so many parameters that can be analyzed. Sometimes you are lost. And again, the first very important one is a dry matter. That's the first one. Then you put everything in your system and you're done. And move fast. So let's move also to very practical approach. Starch is the main fuel for the rumen bugs. So you have to describe as precisely as you can the starch you give or you put in your diets. As you know, you've got different kind of starch within corn grain, and there are some examples here. The size of the particles are also very important. The finest it is, the fastest will be the degradation. So particle size, again, for the corn grain, but also for the corn silage or for the grass silage also. So in order to increase the dry matter intake, you have to be sure that the particle size of your silage is short enough. And what I saw in my different stays in Sri Lanka, this particle size for silage, corn silage or grass is not good enough. The particles are much too long, much too large. So again, you have to take care of this and inform the farmer that the quality of the forage is the main economy in the milk production system. A good forage, a good conservation, a good particle size, and then the milk production will be more economical. For the amino acid, of course, it may come from all the ingredients. Microbes will provide a good part of lysine or methionine, but as I said before, these two amino acids, and mainly the methionine, is the limiting amino acid in the lactating cow diet. So you may have to offer more methionine to the cow. So I move fast because this is perhaps too complicated for today. Again, when you optimize, please remember, if you put garbage in, you will get garbage out. So please pay attention at every value you put in your system. If you want to give a good advice, be sure to put no garbage in. Precise dry matter, precise description of each ingredient, and then, yes, use your software. So again, I move on. So a diet. I have to provide energy, protein, amino acid, minerals, vitamin, trace elements. On farm, you've got the forage. And of course, forages are not well balanced. So you have to correct with a simple mix in order to get a TMR, or you may realize what we call a PMR, a partial mixed ration, and add production mix on top of this PMR, and this production mix be given at an automatic system or during the milking phase. Or you may have different ingredients, a protein mix, a mineral mix, and then production mix. So systems are very different depending on your region or on your habits. Okay, so we've got our diet, and we have to deal also with the farm management. Again, you've got some feed analysis, mainly and firstly the dry matter. You've got your balanced diet, you've got the quantity of concentrates, and sometimes you may have also some additives on top of this. But which ration is it? The ration on paper, the one that has been mixed, the consumed or digested? So when you are on farm, you have to look at the herd and be able to make sure that the one you propose on the paper is the one that will be digested. And in order to do this, you have to move into the pen to look at the feces, to look at the animals, to look at the bunk, etc. So you are a nutritionist and you have to see the animals, to look at the production results in order to make better advice on the paper and give some advice at the farm management level for a good production. Of course, lactation is a long period, one year or more. And so you have to define different period in order to propose different feed. Dry period, fresh, middle, late lactation. The crucial period is around the calving, just before and just after. At that time, you have to feed the most perfect diet. At the end of the lactation, appetite is better, so you may use cheap feeds. But around calving, the best digestible forages, the best feed, and you may feed or propose expensive supplements at that period of time. After, no more expensive products. The cheapest will be the best. Some practical info. When I see such a silo, I say, oh my God, what a pity. You see all the particle length very, very long. You see the face being broken, so oxygen coming in the silo and degrading the energetic value and the palatability of this forage. So that kind of silo face is a pity. In order to have a good silo, you have to make sure that the particle size are the best. And there is one tool, easy to use. It is a Penn State particle size separator, a sieve with different levels. And you've got holes, large, medium, and small holes, and then the solid one at the very bottom. And for each ingredients, forages, you've got recommendation of proportion at each level. If you don't have this recommendation met, then the intake will be lower and the production will be lower and the cost of production will be higher. So one time a year, or sometimes two, but you have to be very present at the crop period in order to make sure that your crop, the farmer's crop, will be well cut and siled. So there is the main period of the year when you deal with all the year production. So please, whatever your ingredients are, corn silage, haylage, TMR, please measure and make good advice for the next time, because sometimes it's too late, of course. And you may use also a thermal camera in order to show that when you have got a good facing of your silo, then the temperature remains low. And at the border, or when it is not well cut, you see it's red, so the temperature is much higher and the degradation will be important on the side of this silo. That's an example. Here it is another one. On the left, it is well cut. On the right, it is just taken out without a knife. And you see here the temperature. Blue, it's quite a good temperature, 25 C. And on the other side, it moves up to 35. So that's a proof that there are some fermentation going on and degradation going on also. Bunk space. A cow needs space in order to eat ad libitum. So anytime you decrease the bunk space, you decrease the dry matter voluntary intake. So please be sure that the bunk space is enough. Stocking density is not too high. And there is theoretical value for the space at the bank and the real value. In that case, it was a picture taken in Sri Lanka. You see that all the cows are stuck here, and just behind the door, there is no cow. So in fact, the real stocking density is much higher than it was calculated in the theoretical point of view. So you have also to look at the barn and try to explain why the cow don't visit this part of the bunk. There is no one here. Why? Perhaps the ventilation is not good enough. Perhaps the light is much too high here. Perhaps there is a wind, a fresh wind. I don't know. But as a nutritionist, you have to visit the barn, try to explain what you see and to correct some aspects of the management, not only the diet. Here it is much better. You see the cow are eating all along the line. Cow comfort, also very, very important. A cow, and especially a pregnant cow just before calving, need a quiet, private place to calve. As I said, transition phase is very important. And if just before calving, the cow doesn't have the comfort, then the lactation will be impaired. That's what it should be. Large space, a quiet, private place to calve, isolation from other cows. That's the recommendation that are made nowadays. Sorting and leftover. You have to increase the dry matter intake. And in order to increase the dry matter intake, make sure there is never an empty bunk. Never an empty bunk. You have to repeat this every time you visit a farm. Never an empty bunk. And sorting, again, sorting is about the particle size. A cow will prefer small particle size. So each time you give a diet with long and short particle size, the cow will sort, try to find the small particle size, and it will decrease the overall intake. So be sure that the particle size is not above the recommendation to make sure that the intake will be at the maximum. And again, stocking density will decrease the dry matter intake. Palatability, of course, with low palatability products, you will decrease the voluntary intake, and high palatability will, of course, increase this intake. So be sure that in your mix, you've got enough high palatability to compensate the low or very low ingredients you have to put into your formulas. Again, never an empty bunk or never an empty part of a bunk, as it is here. Dealing with additives. Additives are often used in your country, and it is always expensive. So if you want to propose an additive, be sure that you complain with the 4R concept. You will need a response. You will need an economical return. It should be based on research, and you have to get some records on your own farm. Make sure that everything before is available at your farm level. So there are many additives. I'm not fan of additive. The main nutrients are energy, amino acid, minerals, trace elements, vitamins, and additives are management tools. Sometimes they are needed, sometimes they are not, and they are only costly. So be be aware of the inefficiency of some additive, mainly based on economical return. So I will move fast. Anyway, as the University of Illinois, it is reasonable to use Raman buffers, use culture, monensin, if it is legal, use it. Silage inoculant in order to preserve and increase the intake, biotin in sometimes, and sometimes also organic trace minerals. If you have some fertility troubles mainly. For fresh cow, the list is a little longer with calcium supplement or calcium bolus and drench. Chromium, if legal. Protected choline, also if your production is very high. Below 35 kg of milk, there is no need of expensive protected choline. For close-up, just before calving, the same. And very important is the anogenic diet with the negative decad value, but it is quite complicated and we have no time to explain this. But again, for close-up dry cow, anionic salts and diets are very efficient for a good production. So again, different period, different recommendation. Use your software. In that case, it is my own Ruminix. Be sure that you've got enough fermentable nitrogen in order to give ammonia to the rumen bugs. Be sure to have your lysine level limiting the production, and be sure to compensate the methionine deficit that is always the case in any diet around the world. So products for complementing this methionine lack are different. You may use a true methionine protected with the SmartAmine products, or you may use the ester of the hydroxy analog of methionine, which is the MetaSmart that FarmChemi can provide to you. These products are different. The effects are different. With the SmartAmine M, you will have more protein, more fat, more volume, and also repro and health benefit. And with the MetaSmart, you will get half of this effect and also an impact on the milk fat depression. So it is a mix of SmartAmine and pure hydroxy analog. Each time you are proposed protected or so-called protected methionine, be sure that it is palatable, be sure it is palatable. MetaSmart is the most common product. As I said, it is half active in the rumen, activating the rumen fermentation and acting as a milk fat enhancer, and half absorbed through the rumen wall, acting as promoting the milk protein synthesis and the milk volume. I will move fast because we are out of time. So in order to synthesize, if you look at all the university trials involving the Aldiseo products from 2003 up to now, you see that there are a real increase in energy corrected milk by 1.70 kg per gram, with an average additional supply of methionine of 11 grams. And if you look at the fat and protein content in this milk production, you see 80 grams per day of milk fat and roughly 60 grams of milk protein. So MetaSmart is a very efficient product. It is proven by the different university. The way of actions are quite complicated, so I won't move into the details, but above the milk protein, it is also a prevention of the oxidative stress, whatever the stress are. There are some recommendations depending on the lactation period. So early lactation, mid and late lactation. You see the benefit in milk production, fat and protein. Before calving, also, right now there is a brand new period where recommendation addition is recommended, and it is proven by some experiments, so no details. So in order to conclude, methionine in close-up and fresh ration is essential for a profitable dairy production. As I mentioned, it will increase the dry matter intake, it will increase the milk production. And if you've got a large herd, you will have enormous saving. Of course, with lower herd, the saving will be less. That was done on the US economic environment. So again, when you balance with amino acid, you will not only have benefit on the production, but also on health, on reproductive performance, and at the end, on the average number of lactation per cow in the herd. And all this make a huge benefit for the farmer. Production is easy to measure. These ones are more complicated because very variable, but at the end, the cows will live longer, will give more liter per day of life, and that's the link with the economy of the farm. So I've been a little long, but that's the end of my presentation. Senita, it's up to you for the
Yeah, thank you so
rest.
much, Dr. Laurent, for taking 1 hour and almost 50 minutes for the presentation. Uh, Now I would like to open the floor for any questions regarding the presentation, or if you have any specific questions regarding dairy nutrition and feed, I welcome any of you to ask any questions. Thank you.
So I was too long, and everything have been said within this period of time.
Yes.
Mm.
Does anyone have any questions? Uh, yeah, Dr. Laurent, I don't think Yeah.
Uh,
Dr. Bodhieva?
Hello. Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Dr. Laurent, uh, what is the composition of the methionine in the metasmart? How much? 1 gram of metasmart, how much methionine contain?
Huh. That's a good question. And the answer is not so easy. Perhaps I can move back to my DR in order to try to explain. Yeah. I share my how to share. Sorry, I've got some trouble here. So when you look, you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah,
doctor,
yeah,
we
we
can
can
see.
see.
Okay, so methionine is this molecule. So if you give pure methionine, it will be destroyed in the rumen. So if you give this to a broiler or to a piglet, no problem, it will go down to the intestine and be well digested here. But for ruminants, it's different. So you need to protect from the rumen activity. For the smartamine M, it is the same molecule with an NH2 radical here, but protected by some kind of eggshell, okay? So it is protected from the rumen activity and then digested at a good level in the intestine. Okay. So some other way have been thought in order to protect the methionine. And the first idea was to give what is given to the monogastric, which is methionine and hydroxy analog. MHA could be the name. So they change the NH2 radical into OH, hydroxy radical, okay? So that's no more a methionine, that's methionine hydroxy analog. And this molecule, for monogastric, will go down to the intestine and be used then as a methionine. But for ruminant, it is all used in the rumen. So it's not a real protected methionine. It is only active in the rumen, not at the intestine level, and it will never reach the mammary gland. So that's the reason why the last product in the ester of the hydroxy analog, the same molecule, but instead of this hydroxy radical, you change it for some ester. And then these products will have the capacity to go through the rumen wall. So part of this molecule will be active in the rumen, just as the pure MHA, but half of this quantity will go through the rumen wall, reaminated in the liver, and arrive as methionine in the blood circulation. And this is the Metasmart. So Metasmart is for one molecule, half the value of the smartamine. Okay, so for Metasmart dry, you've got 222 grams of metabolizable methionine. So 1 kg of Metasmart dry will give you 222 grams of metabolizable methionine at the end. But in fact, this is this molecule. It's not a real methionine in order to answer your question. Is that clear? But in any software, you will have the value of metabolizable or digestible methionine in your database.
Just to follow up on that question, Dr. Laurent, from my side, many people ask, especially the commercial feed millers, they ask if we are to use MetaSmart, uh, bypass, not a bypass methionine, Roman absorb plus bypass methionine, how much crude protein can you replace in the feed formulation uh, for the cost factor when it comes to the cost factor, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. If you listen my talk, I never mentioned CP requirement for a dairy cow.
Yeah.
Okay. So CP is not a nutrient for a lactating cow. So when you ask me how many CP could I decrease my diet when I feed Metasmart, there is no answer. It depends on the level of CP you've got in your initial diet. In my own example in France, we were already very low at the CP level. When I mean low, it was below 16. And with amino acid formulation, we were able to decrease half a point. So from 16 to 15 and a half. But if you are sometimes very high at 18, you may decrease by 2 points easily when you formulate for lysine and methionine. So again, CP is not a nutrient. You have to check your lysine and methionine level and then decrease your CP by 2 points sometimes, or only half one, depending on, again, on your initial level. There is no clear relationship between Metasmart and CP.
Okay.
But in order to give you another answer, perhaps more practical, in a French experimental trial made in Brittany by the INRA, so by the official consultants, they put out of a diet 500 grams of soybean meal. Instead, they put 500 grams of barley, of cereal, and equivalent of Metasmart, roughly 35 grams of Metasmart equivalent, okay? With a better production, a better true protein content of the milk, and a decrease of half a point, again, of the CP value of the diet. So if you have some soybean meal in a diet, it is very easy to put out 1 pound of soybean meal, put in 1 pound of cereal in order to make the same energy level, and then add your Metasmart at the demanded level. You will decrease the CP, you will increase production and milk quality.
Yeah, I think that's the second answer was very clear because we are always looking at the cost factor when it comes to feed formulations. So 500 grams of soybean meal can be replaced with 500 grams of cereal and some Metasmart, which will increase the production simultaneously and will reduce the cost of the feed as well. I think that's the point we'll any other questions from the participants? I think we are all good, Doctor. Laurent, thank you so much for your time from your busy schedule. And we have really appreciate it. At the same time, to everyone who's here, we have recorded the session, and I will share the session with you for your information. And if you have any questions, let us know, and we will connect you with Dr. Laurent for any further inquiries. Thank you so much, Dr. Laurent, again, and thank you. Hope to look forward to seeing you in Sri Lanka again.
It will be a pleasure to come again.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.